Appreciate that. All right, everybody. So hi, welcome. I'm dietitian Jacqueline from Foodtown Stores, and today we're so excited for the holidays. So we're going to be doing some kind of like guilt-free holiday like appetizers, maybe some ideas for sides, and a little sweet treat. You know, I always love including a sweet treat in my classes. We do have 4 recipes today, so we may need the whole hour, but if we don't, we don't. But we will definitely make sure that we get through everything. So just a little housekeeping. We do have a chat box and all of you should be muted. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. I do take like little breaks throughout to check it, to see if anybody has a question or a comment. A lot of times I ask questions just for feedback. So, you know, don't be afraid to participate. I definitely love the participation. You will get a copy of all of the recipes. So I will send those out either today or tomorrow. Usually within 24 hours, I get them out to everybody. We do have close to 100 registrants. So just give me some time because it's like one of those weird, you know, technology is wonderful, but for this, I actually have to add each email address separately. So it does take me a little bit of time. So be patient, but I definitely will have them to you within 24 hours. So that's the recipes. And then of course, you will have my email since I'll be emailing it to you. So if there's anything that you didn't get answered in today's class, please feel free to email me. Totally okay. And I love, you know, getting back to everybody with any questions that they have. Okay. So without further ado, we are going to be starting with my sweet potato stacks, you can call them, or you know, sometimes I've heard people call them like sweet potato like muffins. I wouldn't say they're really muffins, but they are going in a muffin tin. These make a really awesome side dish. I did get multiple requests to do something different with sweet potatoes. So that was the driving force for this particular recipe. So we'll get started with that. Then we're going to move on to our cookies. The reason why I'm doing this in the order in which I'm doing it is because of the cook time. And I want to make sure that you get to see the result by the end of the class. So we're going to be doing an almond chocolate chip cookie that has no added sugar. We're going to be actually using allulose, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we get to the recipe. I'm also doing a stuffed mushroom, which is always a party pleaser. And then my final recipe at the end, because it's the quickest, is going to be a spicy shrimp cocktail. You will love this if you're into seafood. You can switch out the shrimp for lobster. You can do a combination of both. But as always, I actually made it for my husband's birthday over the summer. And it was cleaned out. Like everybody loved it. So I think that you'll enjoy that as a really nice fresh appetizer that's really not heavy. And it can be actually a great lunch as well. So that's the scoop. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm excited. All right. So let's get started with the sweet potato stacks. So of course we have a few sweet potatoes. Now with this recipe, you're going to want to use sweet potatoes that are a little bit smaller because you're going to be putting them in your muffin tin naturally. So, you know, sometimes there's sweet potatoes that are like giant, like this one. So this one's not ideal, but if you only have these, you know, you can just cut them in half. And it works just as well. Okay, so you're going to want to peel your sweet potatoes, which I've done. And then let me move that so you can see it. When you're slicing them, you want them to be kind of on the thin side, okay? Because, you know, sweet potatoes are a little finicky in terms of cooking, and you definitely don't want them to be undercooked. So you want a nice thin slice just like this, all right? So you're going to toss those into a bowl. So let me just finish with the rest of this one. All right. And of course, you know, I always like to get started on some of the prep because I'm sure you all know how to chop an onion by now. So when we get to the kind of boring stuff, I try to already have that done for you so you don't have to sit through, you know, watching me do that kind of mundane stuff, right? So that should be good. So that's a good amount of sweet potatoes there. Then we're going to go in with some shredded Parmesan cheese. Now, the reason I'm not using grated, which is a little bit finer, so let me just give you an example. So this is actually the original container. So the shredded is just like it's a stringier. So I find that it melts a little bit nicer in this recipe rather than using a grated Parmesan cheese, which is not really going to have like a melt factor, you know? So we're going to be doing about a half a cup of this. So we're going to add that in. Okay. And then we have 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now, you know, this recipe does have some bacon in it. It's not much, but when you break everything out, and there's also apples that are going to go in here too, you'll be surprised that each potato stack is only 88 calories, which, I mean, in my world is pretty acceptable, given that, you know, it's kind of like a holiday side dish. So give that a little toss. We're going to be adding in a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And these are also make ahead, so you could totally make them ahead of time and then just warm them through before you're ready to serve. We're adding in a little bit of thyme. My store, unfortunately, was out of fresh rosemary, which I think this recipe is better with the fresh rosemary, but you know, dried herbs are wonderful. They're totally acceptable. So just give that a little crunch and add in your rosemary. So sweet potatoes, Parmesan cheese, thyme, rosemary, salt and pepper, and give that a toss, okay? Now, our apples. The apples add really nice sweetness, and honestly, you're only doing like a small layer, so if you're a little bit like, oh, I don't know, apples, I'm telling you, it makes all the difference. It really, really does. So you're gonna, now the apples are gonna be obviously a little bit bigger than your tin. So for this, I just cut them in half. You're gonna wanna core them, right? So just take out your core. If you have an apple core, it probably makes life a little easier. Mine broke, so we're doing it the old fashioned way, okay? With a paring knife, and that works just as well. All right, now your apples, you also want them to be pretty thin. So just go ahead and slice your apples. And that's, again, going to be the middle layer of your sweet potato stacks, okay? Right? And then I like to kind of just put them all back together. Just give them, you can kind of like quarter them. That works too. Okay, so that's it. It's pretty simple. Now let's assemble. All right, so you're gonna grab your tin, and you definitely wanna spray these with cooking spray, otherwise they will stick. So just please be mindful of that. So give them a little spray. And then my full recipe does make a full like tray of the stacks. So this is only, this is like a half, you know, a half muffin tin. It's only 6. So it does make a full 12, just so you know how more or less how much it's gonna make. Okay, now the assembly begins pretty easy. You're just gonna put in your sweet potatoes, and then halfway through, add in a couple apples, and then top with more sweet potato. Now, these are gonna cook down, so you want them to be like a little bit higher than your tin. If you want like a nice robust stack, which I think is nice. It looks really nice when they're kind of on the larger side, you know, so just put those in there, just like that. And then you will have like some cheese at the bottom of your bowl. We're gonna use that. So nothing goes to waste here. We like to make sure we use all our ingredients, okay? This one's a little bit, you gotta trim that one. There we go. We kind of want it on the flatter side. Okay, so now you're gonna take your apples, put a couple slices in the middle. Okay. There we go. There we go. I'm missing this one. Hang on, this one is a little bit too, there we go. Put the smaller ones on the bottom and then the bigger ones on top. Okay, so we've got our apples in there. And then remember to just top your final layer here at the top. Okay, now what happens at the end? So at the end, because remember, we want these to be, I like them to be like kind of on the bigger side. That's perfect. Okay. So now when you reach the top and you've got them all stacked up, you're going to add just like a pinch of olive oil at the top, just so they, you know, they get kind of crispy. And then I do like adding, so you're going to have a little bit more cheese like that's left over at the bottom. So just top a little bit each one with a little bit more cheese here. Okay. These are so cute and they're really so good. You know, my husband is not really like a sweet potato guy, but he did like these. But I will admit I ate the majority of them when I was testing the recipe. So, all right. So now here, what we're going to do is we're going to cover them with aluminum foil. We're going to pop them in the oven, and they're going to go in the oven for about 30-ish minutes, 35 minutes. Now just a tip, if you're not used to doing this, anytime you have anything with cheese, it's a good idea to spray your foil so that the cheese doesn't stick to the aluminum foil. So you're going to do that with whatever, lasagna, eggplant parm, anything that has like a cheesy layer on top. Always spray your foil so that it doesn't stick to the cheese. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So you're just going to cover this. And then this guy is going to be in the oven for pretty much the rest of our class. And then at the end, we're going to take the top off and we're just going to finish it off to let it crisp up. Okay. So we'll pop you right in here. Okay. All right. So that is, okay. So I'll keep an eye on that. Now, since we're already like dealing with this recipe, I want to get with our bacon topping. Now, the bacon topping is really very simple. Again, bacon can be like fried ahead of time. There's no reason why you have to wait until like you're ready to serve. This is something you can do in advance. So I went ahead and just fried up a couple pieces of bacon this morning and just had it sitting on a paper towel, and you can see it's still crispy. In fact, that one just broke. So we're going to chop this up and we're just going to put it in a little bowl. And then this is going to be our topping. So when we're ready to serve this dish and you've got everything warm through, you're just going to top each little stack with a little bit of bacon topping. And it's like sweet and salty. I mean, it's so good. You're really going to love it. So that was nice and easy. That took no time at all. And just put that in a little side bowl, just like that. You could also, if you're not a fan of like pork bacon, excuse me, you could easily use like a turkey bacon if that's more your speed. You know, or you could leave it out altogether. You know, you certainly don't have to use it if you don't like, but that's kind of just like the finisher. Okay. So, what degree? Oh, I'm sorry. 350. The oven's at 350. Okay. Great question. So, I'm sorry, 375. So our oven's at 375. And that's going to be in there, like I said, for about 35 minutes. And then when at the end of the class, we're going to pull off the aluminum foil and let it finish cooking so that they can kind of crisp up. Okay. So any questions about this particular recipe as I kind of clean up and get ready for our next one? Okay. No questions. All right, good. All right. So let me move all these things aside and we'll get started on our cookies. So let's move this over here. Move that over here. We don't need this cutting board for cookies, so we'll move that aside. So our almond cookies. Now, these were inspired by one of my children, my oldest, who I was just kind of looking for something a little bit kind of, I don't know if healthier is the right, maybe healthier is the right word, but I was just kind of looking for a cookie recipe that I could make for them like on a more consistent basis that wasn't so loaded with so much sugar. And so that's where this kind of recipe sort of, you know, came from, if you will. So what we're using for this cookie recipe is almond flour. So I'm using Bob's Red Mill. I'm sure there are other brands, but this is the one that I have kind of been using since the beginning of making these cookies. So almond flour we have, you can use, I prefer dark chocolate chips. Now Lily's is a really nice brand. They're no sugar added chocolate chips. These are the semi-sweet style. They also have them in dark chocolate. We love these. So you can use this style. If you only have access to, you know, like Hershey's or another brand, totally fine as well. These are the dark chocolate variety. So these work wonderfully too. And then it's really simple ingredients. It's just like 2 little tablespoons of butter. which is nothing. Baking soda, of course, what we need. We only have 1 egg here. And then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about RX sugar. So as you may be familiar, there are a variety of sugar substitutes out there. Everything from sucralose, which is Splenda, you have stevia, you have aspartame, which is, we kind of don't want to include that in anything. So we have to kind of figure out what works best for us, right? Now, allulose is a plant-based sugar. So this comes from fruit, actually, real fruit. But what's interesting about allulose is that our body only recognizes around 90% of the calories that come from this particular plant-based sugar. So because of the way that our body processes it, we actually don't our body doesn't register any of the carbohydrate that's in allulose. So even if you were someone who is managing blood sugar, this would not cause a blood sugar spike. So it's a really nice alternative. And if you are someone who reads food labels, you'll start to notice that many more companies are switching to allulose. So for example, Chobani, which is a very, very huge, big yogurt company, they recently have switched many of their products over to allulose because it is considered a natural sugar. Okay, questions. Let's see. I'm allergic to almond. Can I substitute? Yeah, I don't see why not. You could substitute a different flour for sure. And where can I get the sugar? Yeah, great question. I love that question. I love this. And they have so many, they have a liquid form, they have syrups, they have like little snacks, like bars and things like that. So I'll send you a link when I send you the recipes. There'll be a link in there so you can go to their website. You can purchase on their website, but we do sell them in our stores. So we have at Foodtown, we have the granulated as well as the liquid sugar, and we also carry some of their snack varieties as well. Okay. So anyway, try it. I hope you enjoy it. It's definitely on the up and up and something that's very well researched. So I wouldn't I never promote a product that I don't believe in. But I know that there's a lot of science to support this one. So it is a good one. Okay. All right. So now that's all about our ingredients. Pretty, simple setup. I like to put my cookies always on parchment paper, since I feel like they don't stick. They kind of just come right off. So let's get going, right? So let's just start putting everything together. Oh, we're also using a little vanilla extract. And, and I totally appreciate the comment on the being allergic to almond flour. My own brother has a nut allergy, so I'm pretty familiar. I mean, obviously I'm a dietitian, I'm familiar with food allergies, but even from a personal perspective, I totally get the whole, needing to, modify recipes sometimes. Yeah, but you could use a different flour for sure. So we are just going to go ahead with 2 cups of the almond flour or any other flour. Oat flour works great for this. All right, so we got 2 cups in there. That works perfect. All right. All right, then we have our vanilla. So actually, you know what? I'm going to do our baking soda first. I like to kind of follow along with like the dry ingredients and then the wet ingredients and all that. So where am I here? So we're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of the baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon. Okay. Baking soda. So we'll set that aside. And then 1/4 teaspoon of just regular salt, table salt. Okay. 1/4 teaspoon. I'll just use 1/2 of this. A little salt there. Okay. We'll give that a stir. I need a clean spoon here. Okay. And then we'll go in with our sugar. So with our RX sugar, we're using 1/4 of a cup. If you want to substitute regular table sugar, you're certainly able to. That's what's nice about this is that it's an equal ratio. So if you didn't have this, but you wanted to make the cookies anyway, you could totally just use regular sugar. Okay. So we're using 1/4 of a cup. And just for your own FYI, you're probably wondering, well, what's the nutrition on these, right? So each cookie is going to be 140 calories and only 7 grams of carbohydrate. So the majority of the calories are coming from fats, so healthy fats, because almond flour does come from almonds. So naturally it's going to be a little higher in fat, but they're all good fats. So we have 4 grams of protein for one cookie. I'll take it. 3 grams of fiber. That's not too bad either. And then the fats are at 12.5 grams. Okay. So, oh, of course. Oh my gosh, please feel better. You'll get the recipes anyway. Okay. So don't feel bad. All right. Is almond flour better for you, or are you just trying to avoid gluten? Oh, great question. Oh my God, what a good question. So, no, I wasn't in particular trying to avoid gluten. I feel that the almond flour has more nutrients. So this is a good opportunity to kind of talk about what the heck is in almond flour. So ingredients, blanched almonds. That's it. Those are the ingredients. So you're definitely going to get a lot more nutrition from an almond flour because it's just almonds, right? And so, for example, 2 tablespoons of flour has 2 grams of fiber, 4 grams of protein, 6 grams of healthy fats. So those are going to be monounsaturated fats, right? And so if you compare that to just say a wheat flour, you're not getting those nutrients. You're just not. There's nothing wrong with wheat flour. If you're eating a cookie and you want to enjoy a cookie, have the cookie. But, you know, this is a nice alternative for individuals who are managing blood sugar, individuals who do need to avoid gluten for whatever health reasons that they need to. So, you know, so there's lots of benefits, I think, to, you know, using almond flour if it's something that you enjoy. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Please let me know. Can you substitute the sugar for honey or melted dates or I think so. I think you could. I think you could substitute the you know, for honey or you know, remember that these are all variations of just sugar. So the body is going to metabolize them the same exact way. So we metabolize honey the way we metabolize table sugar, the way we would metabolize maple syrup. Your body cannot distinguish between those sugars. In the recipe, how they'll operate is that because it's a liquid form, your cookie is just going to be a little bit more, maybe like stickier, which is not a bad thing, right? You might have a little bit more moisture in your cookie, and that's okay. Yeah, so I think you could totally sub. I think I did miss one question. Oh, no, I didn't. No, I think we're good. Okay. So, all right. So just keep the questions coming. We'll keep looking at them. So then I want to see where I left off. All right, so we have our almond flour, we have our sugar. Okay, so now let's get our vanilla. Well, actually, we have to separate that because those are our liquid ingredients. All right, so now we have our dry ingredients all together here. Okay. All right. So now we're just going to set that aside. Let me just grab another small, we don't need a big one, just kind of a small bowl for our egg. So just 1 egg over here. And we have our, our vanilla, pure vanilla. You could also add in a little bit of almond extract if you want to enhance the flavor of your cookie. You certainly could do that. I think I have that on my recipe. So we're going to be doing 2 teaspoons of the vanilla extract, maybe a little more because I like it. Okay. So that works well there. And then of course we have our egg, which we're going to beat. So let's just get that all together. And then we're going to add in our butter into our mixture over there. Okay. So that should be everything. And then for our chips, we're going to be using about a 1/2 cup. And, you know, it's one of those things like the chocolate chips aren't going to make or break your recipe, meaning if you want to add more, have at it. If you want to add less, that's okay too. You know, the thing about cookies is once you have your base already, now this is really soft, so this is going to easily just go right in here. Once you have your base with your cookies, meaning you have like the proper ratio of your wet and dry ingredients, then when you put in your add-ins, like let's say you wanted to put cranberries or you wanted to put extra nuts or something like that, those additions aren't going to really, you know, aren't going to really affect the quality of your cookie. It can only really enhance it, right? and give it a little bit more flavor or a little bit more texture, you know, so that totally works. Okay. So with your cookies, you're kind of like working the butter into the mixture, and you want it to get like, you know, like those little, almost like little balls, like when you're making a pastry crust, like that kind of situation. I guess is the best way I could say it. So you're just kind of working your, you know, your butter into your mixture here. Okay. And it's really simple. Like that's pretty much it. And then we're going to add in our other ingredients and give it a good mix. And then we're good to go. Okay. All right. I love these. My kids really like them too. I usually make them ahead of time and we'll freeze them. They freeze really well, which is nice. Okay. I'll put everything in there. Okay. Put that in my sink here. Okay. And just give you guys a little look. It's just a cookie dough, right? It's like nothing fancy. But okay, so this is gonna be, you know, you've really got to work this. So you might need a little muscle in here, you know, to make the dough all come together, but I promise you it will. And it already is. So just make sure that that gets in there here. Good. This looks awesome. And it smells really good. It actually does smell like almonds. I will say that for sure. Okay. So that's it. So let me just scoop a little bit out. So you can see it's, you know, it's like a soft dough, really nice, you know, just like that. Okay. So now we're ready to put in our chips. Okay. So that's it. All right. So I'm going to go with my dark chocolate chips for today. All right. And I think the recipe said a half a cup, which is about the palm of your hand. Yeah, there we go. Put that in there. Okay. If you've been watching my classes for any length of time, you know I'm very I eyeball a lot of stuff. But I promise you the recipe has all of your, you know, your measurements. Okay. All right, perfect. So that's it. It's like so simple, not a big deal at all. All right, so what am I using here to scoop them up? So like I said, we're doing parchment paper. Our temp on this one is the 350. So this is gonna be, these are gonna be done in like 9 minutes. You don't wanna overcook these. You really don't overcook these because they will get a little like almost like hard and dry. So you'll like after the 9 to 10 minutes, you'll be like, are they really done? I mean, they're kind of soft. It's okay if they're soft. It really is. They'll, you know, once they once they cool off, then they will get, you know, a little bit harder. But you can see how the dough is, it's nice. It's like a nice little dough there. So you're going to use one of these small cookie, like tablespoon scoops. This is probably the best option. If you don't have one, then just use a regular tablespoon that you have, you know, from your measuring spoons. That will work perfectly well. Okay. So let's quickly get those done. Now, one thing you will have to take like one little extra step once you have your dough on your parchment paper. And that's, you want to take either the back of a fork or the back of a spoon and just like flatten them out just a little bit. These aren't going to spread the same way that a traditional, you know, wheat flour cookie will. They'll kind of hold their shape. So, you know, just kind of flatten them out a little bit so that they cook properly or bake properly, I think is the right term that we're using here, right? We're baking. All right. These are so good. I love these cookies. All right. Oops. That one got a little, there we go. Okay, so that's good enough. So then what we're going to do is, this is the fork I was using to mix everything. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to press them down just a little bit, just to kind of form my cookie. So you see how nicely they hold their shape. So, you know, it's just kind of like how you kind of like want them to bake up. And like I said, they will hold their shape for the most part. So you can kind of have the cookies close together. They're not really gonna, they shouldn't, I guess I should say, they shouldn't spread too much where they're gonna, you know, bake into each other. Okay, perfect. So I'll check the chat as soon as I get these in the oven. And then we'll move on to our mushrooms. And then we have to actually check on our little sweet potato stacks, right? Gotta see how those are doing. There we go. Perfect. Okay. There we go. Just squeeze that. There we go. Just do that one with my hand. All right, perfect. That's it. Easy peasy, okay? Now these I have to set a timer for because of course I'm distracted. So I will not remember to check on them. So I'm gonna set a timer for these so that we don't forget about them, okay? And then I'll check the chat to see what questions we have. Okay, so there we go. Right into the oven they go. Okay. Set a quick timer. 12:30, perfect. All right, so we'll check on those in 9 minutes. Okay, so can you substitute the sugar? Yes, we talked about that. Can you substitute the butter for a butter sub or oil instead? You know, that I'm not sure, and I'm going to tell you why. Because notice how when I put the butter and I mixed it with the flour, it kind of crumbled the dough, and it kind of made it hold together. So I feel like the butter serves as the reason that the butter's in there is to kind of hold the dough together, so to speak. I'm not saying you can't try oil. If you want to try like half the recipe with oil to see how it turns out and then make a full batch, I would be interested in seeing if that turns out, you know, okay. So to answer your question, I'm not entirely sure because I do feel like the butter, you know, kind of holds it together. So I don't know. I don't know if we can use oil. I'm sorry. I'm not sure about that particular question. Okay. So let's move on, and please let me know if you have any other questions while we get set up for our mushrooms. Okay. All right. So let me just clear some of these things here. I still have some apples, some wrappers. We'll set this aside. Okay. So, right. So let's bring this here. Okay. So now we're going to be working on our stuffed mushrooms. Now, stuffed mushrooms are like such a party pleaser. I feel like anytime I go to like some kind of event, there's like some kind of stuffed mushroom. And I think that people really enjoy them. And this recipe is really quite simple. It seems like it has lots of ingredients, but it's actually really not hard at all. So let me just gather. So with this recipe, this is spinach and artichoke. So this dip or this filling, if you happen to have any left over, which this makes about 50 mushrooms, small mushrooms like this, like the small ones like that. If you have any left over, you can use it like to stuff shells, like pasta shells, or, you know, you can use it, you know, to even like as a little bit of a dip if you wanted to. So, so it does have, you know, versatility to it. So we're going to be using I'm using some lower fat ricotta cheese or part skim ricotta cheese. I have artichoke hearts. So I'm using the canned version. You don't have to get the ones that are marinated. You can just get the plain ones, but you could certainly use the marinated ones if you wanted to. We are also going to be using just a little bit of part skim shredded mozzarella cheese, not too much. Because there is already quite a bit of cheese in here. And then you're just going to get a package of frozen spinach and just defrost it. You have to do this in advance because otherwise it's going to be really wet. So you want to defrost it and then squeeze all of the water out. So get it, you know, nice and dry. You can do this a day in advance. You know, you could even make this filling a day in advance. You could fill your mushrooms a few hours before your party, pop them in the fridge, and then when you're ready for the party, just bake them and, you know, be the hostess with the mostess. Okay. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that I prepare, I really try to, you know, do things that, you know, you can kind of make in advance. So you're not waiting until the last second, you know, to do everything. All right. So let's get it all going. So let me grab a bowl here. So I've got this bowl right here. Okay, so for this, for these guys, your oven you want to be having your oven preheated to about 400 degrees. Now with the mushrooms, please do not submerge your mushrooms in water. Mushrooms already have a super high water content. And so if you submerge them, they're going to get spongy. So what you want to do instead to clean them is you're just going to take a paper towel, wet your paper towel, and then you're just going to brush any dirt that it has on it. You're just going to brush it off. That's it. It's that simple. Is it a little tedious? 110%. It is. It takes a little while. So this is why you want to plan in advance. You want to, I already did this for you. So, you want to kind of clean these in advance. So you're not waiting until the last second to do this. Now we are using the stem. I try to utilize, what did I do with my paring knife? Well, you just use this. I try to use all the ingredients so that, you're not really wasting anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the stems as part of our filling. So you just pop it out, just kind of pop out your stem like this. I would use a smaller knife, but I have no idea where it is. So, and then you can just kind of create a little bit of a well so that you have enough room to stuff your mushroom. Okay. So they're pretty simple. So just pop that in there. And I have the rest of my mushrooms already, already pitted, I guess. No, they're not pitted. They're just, I'm just taking the stems out. All right. So there we go. Actually, I could use this for our recipe. All right. So now for our filling. So I have here, and I know you probably can't see it. So let me move a couple things over for you. So let me just move this a little bit closer so that you can hopefully see, so I don't burn myself. Let's hope. Okay. So I have a pan here and we're going to saute half a onion in here. So we're going to add in some olive oil. Okay, so add in a little bit of olive oil to our pan. And in here, I have a half an onion. Now, like I said earlier, I'm not going to have you sit here and watch me cut an onion because then I'll start crying and then it's a lot of drama because it hurts my eyes. So we do this ahead of time. So I've got an onion in here. And then I also put in 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. If you really love garlic, you can add a bit more. I'm a big garlic person. So when a recipe calls for like 2 or 3 cloves, I probably add an extra one just for fun. So go ahead and saute your onions. Where's my spoon? Got a spoon here. Okay, so let me make sure that's on high. Okay, so while that's going, let me see. We're going to cut up our, let's move these guys over. So we want to chop the stems because this is going to be going into our mixture here. So just a rough chop, okay? Now, these mushrooms are a little, they're small because they're meant to be an appetizer, right? What's nice about, or what, I don't know if it's nice or if it's something that you can try to do for your party is try to make things like one bite or one thing to pick up because it just makes entertaining a little bit easier for you and your guests. That way they don't feel like they need a knife and fork, to nosh on something. It's kind of like one bite and then they can move on to the next thing. Okay. So your stems are going to go right in with your onions. You want to cook these up. Okay. Give that a little bit. You know what? I'm going to use a wooden spoon so that I don't ruin my pan here. There we go. Okay. So we're going to cook that. All right. Okay. Now I'm looking at my recipe here. All right. So we've got that. Now we're going to, in another bowl, we've got all of our cheeses on our spinach and our artichoke. So everything goes in one bowl. So we're going to be using about 1.5 cups of our ricotta cheese. I love ricotta cheese. Have you ever whipped it and made like a whipped ricotta? Oh my God, it's so good. And then all you need to do is add in on the side, some sauteed tomatoes with fresh garlic or a pesto. Oh my gosh. And some crusty bread. That's a whole other appetizer right there. So good. Ricotta is such a nice cheese. Okay. So we have our ricotta cheese in here. Can add a little pinch of salt, little pepper, because ricotta is really mild. It really doesn't have, there's nothing really to it. So give that a little salt and pepper, mix that up. Okay. And then, let me see, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope. So, okay. So we just mix everything in, pretty simple. So now let's add in, so it's just about a cup of spinach. So you won't need like your full container. So give that a little bit of a mix. Okay. All right. And then we're going to chop up our artichokes. Now, if you've not worked with artichokes before, they can get like a little bit, what's the right word here? Almost like they can shred. So try to like chop them kind of small, and that way we don't want your, because you want everything to kind of fit into your mushroom. So just be mindful of cutting it really, really small. The reason I'm looking around is because I have to check on the cookies, and I'm looking for a glove. So I want to make sure that, oh, here we go. Perfect. There we go. All right. They cook up so quickly. Look, they're all done. Okay. So we're going to let those cool off. And I don't know if you can see, but they're still like, they're soft, but they're totally done. Okay. So we'll let those cool, and then we'll pick them up when they're cool, and I'll show you them. Okay. All right. So now with our, artichokes, you want to cut these really nice and fine here. All right. See, some of them like don't want to chop through. Okay. I love artichokes. The fresh ones are really hard to eat. Anybody experience that? I find fresh artichokes very difficult to eat, but the ones in the can are much easier. Okay. So just give that a nice fine chop. Okay. And we're going to put that right back in here. Oh my gosh, the cookies smell so good. When they're warm, I mean, they really do smell good. Okay. So we've got that. I'm going to mix that all together. Now I put the oven back up to 400 because we're going to be putting our mushrooms back in the oven. Okay. Or not back in the oven, but they're going into the oven. All right. So let me grab this. So you just want a baking sheet. I always like to line my baking sheets with aluminum foil to protect my pan. And also really, that's not really the motive. The motive is I don't want to clean another pan. So I always like to line them with aluminum foil. All right. Okay. So now in here, we're going to be adding a little bit of cheese. Parmesan cheese. Do I have one? I do have one open. All right, so this is going to be about 1/4 cup. You really don't need much here. It's just really for a little bit of flavor. All right, and then the mozzarella, the shredded mozzarella, it's just to top it if you want like that kind of like that melted factor. You could omit it depending on how you feel about cheese. Because there's already quite a bit of cheese in here between the ricotta, and I added a little bit of Parmesan just for like Parmesan really adds like a nice flavor, which is what, why I added it in there. Okay. All right. So our onions are pretty much done. You just want them to be kind of soft, translucent, as well as the garlic cooked through. You don't want it to burn though, because then you could get kind of like that bitterness. So I'm just going to turn this down. And since we're going to pop these in the oven, I mean, you could let this cool, but you really don't have to. You could just add it right to here. And then we're going to fill our mushrooms, and that's it. Really easy. I would say that if you were not going to bake them right away, like meaning you're doing this, I'm going to make the filling first and then fill them later, I would let this cool off. Okay. So if you're going to fill them like later on, let your onions separate, just let them cool off before you add them into your ricotta mixture. Okay, that's good. Let me just set this aside so I don't burn myself. All right, there we go. Perfect. Now I'm going to show this to you in just a second. So give that a nice mix. There we go. Doesn't that look good? This does look like the beginning of a stuffed pasta situation, right? You could really do a lot with this filling. Okay. Okay, so that's it. You could even put it, I mean, no, now I'm getting like, now the ideas are rolling. You could even put this in like a little like bake-proof dish or like little baking pan. You could put it in the oven and serve it as like a hot dip. So like a hot artichoke dip. You could do that with this as well. Okay. All right. So there we go. I feel this like hot, which means I'm going to burn myself if I don't move it. There we go. Okay. So now you just take your mushrooms, you just give them a nice little fill, just like that. This is the easy part. Once everything's done, like that's it. You're just, I mean, even, you know, even like a younger child could do this. It's really not that hard. Okay. I'm always looking for ways for people to help out, you know, and this is something anybody could do, is just kind of filling them just like that. Okay. And I like to kind of overfill them. I think it looks really nice. All right. And like I said, this dip will probably make around 50 of these. So if you do have leftover, you know, you definitely can repurpose it. Okay. There we go. Oops. This one's a little tiny. There we go. Just like that. So easy. Haven't decided if I'm going to make these this year. I think I made these, I don't know if it was last year, but they're always like really well received. You could also switch it out, not switch it out, but you could, same ingredients, but let's say you left out the spinach and you could add in like a little crab meat if you want to do something like that. You know, that would work too. So lots of ways to kind of spin this. All right. Here we go, almost done. We have this one here. Oop, that one fell. There we go. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And we have this little tiny one here. We don't want to leave him behind. Okay. All right. Now, so if you want, like I said, if you wanted to have like a little bit of melt factor, you can just top a little bit of mozzarella cheese on each one. But like I said, you don't have to. There's plenty of cheese already in this recipe, so I think it's optional. The only thing it does is it gives it like a nice little like melted cheese look, you know, and it does, I mean, obviously it adds flavor. Of course it does, right? So that's it. So I'm going to pop these in the oven. Now these go in, these are not long, 15 minutes. Okay. So these are only 15 minutes. And then we'll check on our sweet potatoes. All right, everybody, how we doing so far? Okay. All right. So curious about the calories for the, yes. Oh, good. I'm glad you think they look good. Mushrooms. Okay. This one has like a little disclaimer. Nutrition information is approximate based on the size of your mushrooms, but it's more based on like how many you make, right? So let's say you did this filling and then you only filled like 30 mushrooms, then obviously the nutrition facts is going to be different. So just be mindful that it's based on 50 mushrooms. Okay. So each one would be 20 calories, 2 grams of carb, 1 gram of fat, 1.5 grams of protein, and 0 grams of fiber. Okay. So, I mean, it's pretty guilt-free in my book, and it has like quite a bit of like indulgent ingredients, right? Okay. So now that's that. Now let's move on to our shrimp. Let's turn this over. Now this is one of my favorite appetizers. I love this. I think you're going to love it as well. So let me just grab all of my ingredients over here. Where's my recipe? Here it is. Okay. So now this is really simple as well. Cooked shrimp. If you buy it cooked, super. If you don't, all I did was I just took raw shrimp and I just steamed it. Easy peasy, like no big deal. Like steamed shrimp takes less than 5 minutes, okay? But you want it to be chilled, okay? So you want this to be chilled. I have red onion, a half of a red onion minced right here. As I said, I'm so sensitive to onion, it'll make me cry right away. All right, I have a little over a cup of grape tomatoes. So I cut them in half. So grape tomatoes, cut them in half. You could use regular tomato and just like dice it or chop it. That works well too. Then we are going to be adding an avocado. This one's nice and ripe. I have a jalapeno and 2 limes. That's it. It's so easy. You're going to love this. But what I want to do is I want to use a glass bowl so you can kind of see how everything comes together. So I have one right here. Let me just grab it quickly. All right, there we go. So otherwise you won't really be able to see how everything comes together. So now this can only be made ahead through, I would say the shrimp, the onion, the jalapeno, and the lime juice, and you're going to be adding olive oil and salt and pepper, but the avocado and the tomato at the end, because once you season tomato, it starts breaking down, it gets watery. So you don't want to make this all ahead at this because it's just going to get kind of weird. Plus, as you know, avocado, the second you open it, it starts oxidizing, right? So those are the only things that I would say you kind of have to wait on, when it comes to this. But like I said, I've made this before, and I did do those couple of things ahead of time. And then right before I was ready to serve it, I cut up my avocado. The tomatoes were already cut, so you just assemble and then you serve, okay? This I am definitely making this year. I love this recipe, and it's light. And since my family celebrates Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we kind of have to rein it in a little bit, I think, a little bit, not too much. Okay, so with your shrimp, you're just going to cut it into thirds because you want nice big chunks, okay? So really nice and easy there. This takes no time at all. And what I have here is about 1 pound of shrimp. If you have lots of people, lots more shrimp. If you want to make it a little bit more special, you could add lobster, cooked lobster. That works really well. You could add a little bit of like cooked scallops. This is the kind of thing that any, kind of seafood will work. All right. So let's cut up our shrimp into thirds, just seeing if we have, no questions. Okay. And then I'm going to show you what I bought online to serve these in, which makes it even more festive. Okay. Now, the reason why I have the gloves on is because anytime you're working with jalapeno, you absolutely should wear some kind of protective gear on your hands, unless you love getting spice in your eyes. If you like getting spice in your eyes, then use your regular hands. I don't. So, all right. So we have our cut up shrimp here. Okay. Now for the onion, minced red onion, that just goes right in. Okay. Now for our jalapeno. So this recipe only calls for 1 jalapeno per pound of shrimp. So if you're doubling your recipe with more seafood, just maybe add another one in. You're always going to want to just cut the stem off first. Okay, that goes in there. And then cut your jalapeno right down the middle. Now, the spice is in the seeds. If you like a lot of spice, leave the seeds in. If you are afraid of like how spicy it might be, take the seeds out, which is what I'm going to do. While I like spicy food, I don't love my mouth like on fire. And that's what will happen if you leave the seeds in there. So I like to remove most of them. I'll leave a little bit behind, just a couple stragglers. Okay. But for the most part, I do try to remove most of them because I do feel like it's a little too powerful. Okay. Now with your jalapeno, let me take a little bit more out because I think my kids might want this today. So really, really, really fine mince. You really want this to be as tiny as you can get it. Okay. Because no one wants to really bite into a big chunk of jalapeno. So you really want this to be really finely minced. Okay. So give your knife a little run through here, just like this. All right. There we go. And that goes right in there. Okay. So that's that. Okay. Now you would use the whole one, but I think you get the picture. Okay. I think this is good here. All right. Now we're going to be doing 2 limes, the juice of 2 limes. Okay. Got my handy dandy juicer here, right in here. Okay. Oh, just so you know, like once you juice your lime, you could put this into like a container of water. If you don't, it'll still like add flavor to the water. As long as it's clean, as long as your juicer's clean, you can just repurpose that and put that into a pitcher of water. Now you have lime water. Okay. All right. So their lime juice goes in there. Now we're going to add in some olive oil, about a tablespoon. Olive oil. And then the finishing touch is our cilantro. I have it somewhere. Come on, there we go. We got our olive oil in there. Beautiful. A little pinch of salt. I'm not going to add pepper because it's kind of already spicy with the jalapeno. All right. And then our tomatoes go in here. There we go. That looks good. Where is... I'll just use this. I have to get another spoon. Oh, here it is. Knew I had it somewhere. Give that a nice toss. Okay. There we go. Doesn't that look so pretty? And we're not even done yet. Look at how nice that looks. Like I would just eat this for lunch, right? Looks so good. Okay. So now, like I said, the avocados last, but let me grab the cilantro. Are we making good on time? We have to get our potatoes out. So with your herbs, FYI, PSA, public service announcement, make sure you wash your herbs as soon as you get home. They will last twice as long if you put them in a little plastic bag with a paper towel. And then when you're ready to use them, you don't have to complain that you have to wash them. They're just ready to go, okay? So now just take your cilantro, just run your knife through that. I know there's some individuals who really don't like cilantro, and it's a real thing. There are some people, because of the pepperiness of it, just really don't enjoy it. If you're one of those people, you could certainly do parsley. That would be just fine. But the cilantro definitely adds a nice flavor to it. And then our avocado, and that's it. So with your avocado, just make sure you're always safe because people end up in the emergency room getting stitches, cutting avocados all the time. So just run your knife around the center of it. Oh, this one's really ripe. And if your avocado is ripe, it should just come right apart. The other one, the other pitch should come out too. And then you're just gonna take your knife and just make some lines here and then turn it. And what will happen is you'll get like perfectly, perfect like little cubes, okay? And then just scoop everything out right into your salad. Okay. Doesn't that look amazing? This is so, so good. So you could refrigerate this like maybe up to like 30 minutes before your guests arrive. And it should still, stay intact. Remember that anytime you add acid to any type of protein, it starts breaking it down right away. So just be mindful of that. But you're good, I would say up to 30 minutes, just like this. And then what I did was I went on Amazon and I just bought these cute little cocktail cups. And so what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to go ahead and serve mine just like this. And then just add like a little cocktail spoon or fork and you're good to go. So that's like a really fun, healthy appetizer that I think most people would enjoy, of course, assuming you're into seafood. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions on that. In the meantime, let's get our potatoes out. They should definitely be done by now. So let me just move some of these things around here. All right, let me get my gloves and turn this off. And oh, our mushrooms look good too. Let me take these out. Oh yeah, these are perfect. Look at that. The mushrooms are done. And our sweet potatoes are done. Oh, they smell so good. All right. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna keep my gloves on because I think I'm gonna handle some of this food. So I want to be able to show you everything, okay? All right, so now we're gonna grab a nice little serving dish. Sorry for the noise. Okay. All right, you guys, so grab yourself a nice, I always like using white platters because it makes your food pop. Unless, of course, the food is white, then maybe not so much. So grab yourself a platter and just put your cute little mushrooms on here. Now, clearly, we only did like a small portion of this, but I think you get the idea on what they will look like and how easy they are to serve. And these are, these are not bad at room temperature. I've had these at room temperature and they're quite delicious, okay? So those are your stuffed mushrooms. Those are ready to go. Get this out of the way. And then for our sweet potatoes, and then of course we had our salad. And then for our sweet potato side, sorry, just have to grab a cooking board here because these are going to be hot. All right, so with our sweet potato side, these are so good. These are so cute. Now I'm trying to see how they should cool off, but I want to try and show you what they look like. Ooh, here we go. Okay, so you can let them cool for a couple minutes before you take them out. Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself like I'm doing. But I want to be able to show these to you because they're so cute. All right. All right, this one, come on. There we go. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Oh my God, they're so good. They get really nice and caramelized. Delicious. Oops, there we go. Last one. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay. Let me just move this out of the way here. All right. Grab yourself a plate or, however you're going to serve these. And they're easy to, like give, each person like one or two or however you want to serve it. So just like this. Okay. And now once they're plated, you're going to grab your bacon and just top a little bit, just a pinch, like literally just a pinch. You don't need much of your bacon on each one. And that's it. Okay, there we go. So we have our sweet potato stacks all set to go. We have our mushrooms, stuffed mushrooms. We've got our salad and now the cookies are now, let me not touch them with all the weird ingredients I have on my hands. And now your cookies are ready to go. Look at how delicious they look. Look at this. Awesome. Nice and creamy in the middle. They're soft. They smell amazing. So that's it, you guys. And we did all of this in 1 hour. Actually, it was less than an hour because I was chatting a little bit before we got started. Okay. So questions, comments, anything, something you would make, something you would not make, any other questions around like, I don't know, substitutes or alternatives or anything like that? Can you use something instead of artichokes? Oh, great question. I would think so. You could probably leave the artichokes out. So this is clearly like a spinach and artichoke filling naturally, but I would say if you're not into artichokes, this would totally work with just the spinach. You could even, if you wanted to do like a different veggie, you could do like leeks, which would add a different flavor instead of the onion. And the leeks would add like a little bit more volume. You could add bell peppers. Like let's say you did, you chopped up some, sauteed some bell peppers with your onions and did your spinach. That would add, some nice flavor as well. But if you're just not into artichokes, totally cool. You can just leave it out. Okay. Any other questions? No questions? Okay, good. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Feel free to, still pop things into the chat. Like I said, I will be sending you all of the recipes. You'll also get a link to the recording for today's class in case you wanted to revisit it or sometimes you're kind of looking through your recipe and you're like, oh, you know what? I wasn't sure how she did that. Let me just refer back to the video. So we typically do, keep the video up for a couple of weeks. So you should have plenty of time to revisit it. How much cilantro? Okay. And then, thank you so much. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you for sharing that. The cilantro, I used about a handful, like about a half a cup. I'm looking for my recipe. I know I just grabbed about a handful, but what does my recipe say? Yeah, about a half a cup, a quarter of a cup in that, in that range, is going to work. It depends on, how much you like, but for this, what I just did now, I used about a half a cup chopped. Okay. Any other questions? I think there's one more coming through because I see the little dots. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. All right, everybody. Well, happy holidays. That's it for this year for our cooking class. We do one every single month. For January, it will be very much health focused, as you might imagine. And so look out for that invitation. We should be sending that out over the next couple of weeks. All right. Thank you. And we'll see each other soon. Take care. Bye.